Imagine being one of the most loved women in the world, adored by millions for your beauty, charm, and talent. Yet, behind the glamorous smile lies a life filled with pain, heartbreak, and battles nobody could see. At 56, Jennifer Aniston's story isn't just about fame or fortune. It's about survival, resilience, and the silent tragedies that shaped her. Jennifer Aniston was born into Hollywood royalty, but her childhood was far from glamorous. Her father, John Aniston, was a successful actor known for his role on Days of Our Lives. Her mother, Nancy Dow, was a stunning model and actress. To outsiders, it looked like Jennifer had been born into privilege, a little girl destined for a picture-perfect life in the spotlight. But behind closed doors, the reality was painfully different. When Jennifer was just 9 years old, her parents' marriage collapsed. One day, without warning, her father left the family home. He simply disappeared from her daily life, leaving young Jennifer confused, heartbroken, and desperate for answers. For years, she carried the feeling of abandonment, wondering why her father had chosen to walk away. Though he returned later in her life, the damage had already been done. That early heartbreak planted a wound that never fully healed. As if that wasn't enough, Jennifer's relationship with her mother was equally difficult. Nancy had impossibly high standards for beauty, and she was brutally outspoken about her daughter's appearance. She would criticize Jennifer's weight, her nose, even the way she smiled. Imagine being a little girl searching for love and reassurance, only to be told by your own mother that you weren't good enough. Jennifer would later admit that those harsh words shaped how she saw herself for years. Instead of growing up with warmth and encouragement, she grew up surrounded by criticism, judgment, and the constant fear of not being perfect. It left her with lasting insecurities that followed her into adulthood, even at the height of her fame. And though the world would one day see her as one of the most beautiful women alive, Jennifer herself often struggled to believe it. If Jennifer's childhood was marked by criticism, her teenage and adult years brought an even deeper wound, one that would haunt her for decades. Her relationship with her mother, Nancy Dow, only grew more complicated as Jennifer got older. Nancy was strikingly beautiful, the kind of woman who turned heads when she walked into a room. But to Jennifer, that beauty came with a price. Her mother constantly compared her daughter to impossible standards. Jennifer later described Nancy as very critical, very unforgiving. She said that no matter what she did, it was never enough in her mother's eyes. Those words chipped away at her self-esteem, planting seeds of doubt that followed her even as the world celebrated her. But the pain didn't stop with criticism at home. In 1999, Nancy published a memoir titled From Mother and Daughter to Friends. Inside, she revealed intimate details about Jennifer's childhood and personal struggles, things Jennifer had trusted her with in confidence. To Jennifer, this wasn't just a book, it was betrayal. The very person who should have protected her had instead exposed her to the world. Before we continue with Jennifer's story, if you found yourself drawn in by the struggles and triumphs behind the Hollywood spotlight, take a second to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. That way, you won't miss the next untold journey we uncover. All right, let's get back to Jennifer. because what happened next would change her life forever. The fallout was devastating. Jennifer cut her mother completely out of her life. For nearly 15 years, the two barely spoke. Nancy wasn't invited to Jennifer's wedding to Brad Pitt. She wasn't part of her daughter's milestones. She was kept at a distance, a ghost in the background of Jennifer's fame. The estrangement was so severe that the media often reported on it, turning their fractured bond into a public spectacle. For Jennifer, the pain wasn't just about what her mother had written. It was about the years of feeling judged, misunderstood, and never fully loved for who she was. Imagine reaching the height of your career, adored by millions, but being unable to share that joy with your own mother. Imagine smiling for cameras, knowing deep down your family ties were broken beyond repair. And yet, the rift shaped Jennifer into who she would become. The longing for acceptance, the fight to prove her worth, it fueled her drive. It gave her the resilience to push through rejection and chase her dreams, even when the people closest to her didn't believe in her. But while the mother-daughter relationship left scars, Jennifer's struggles didn't end at home. Just as she was trying to find herself in Hollywood, a string of heartbreaking setbacks merely forced her to give up on acting altogether. By the time Jennifer Aniston set her sights on Hollywood, she was already carrying the weight of a fractured family and a lifetime of criticism. But nothing could have prepared her for just how brutal the entertainment industry would be. In the late 1980s and early 90s, Jennifer was just another struggling actress in Los Angeles. She auditioned for role after role, only to face rejection after rejection. Casting directors told her she didn't have the look. Others said she was too plain, not glamorous enough to carry a show. Imagine hearing the same harsh words you grew up with, echoed now by strangers who controlled your future. To make ends meet, Jennifer worked a string of odd jobs. She was a waitress, a telemarketer, and even a bike messenger, pedaling through the busy streets of New York just to pay her rent. Friends later recalled how she often wondered if she was wasting her time. Her dream of becoming an actress felt like it was slipping further away with every no she received. Even when she managed to land roles, nothing seemed to go right. She was cast in several TV shows, but one by one, they were canceled, sometimes after just a single episode. Imagine pouring your heart into a role, thinking it could be your big break, only to watch it vanish overnight. For Jennifer, it was crushing. She once admitted that by the early 90s, she was so discouraged she considered quitting acting altogether. She thought maybe it just wasn't meant to be. But destiny has a strange way of working. At the very moment Jennifer was ready to walk away from Hollywood, a new opportunity appeared, one that would change everything. She had no idea she was about to audition for a role that would transform her life, make her a household name, and turn her into one of the most beloved stars of her generation. In 1994, Jennifer Aniston's life changed forever. After years of heartbreak and rejection, she walked into an audition for a new sitcom called Friends Like Us. At first, the role of Rachel Green didn't seem extraordinary. She was written as the spoiled, runaway bride who cuts up her father's credit cards in the pilot episode. But Jennifer brought something magical to the character: wit, charm, and vulnerability. Within minutes, the producers knew they had found their Rachel. When Friends premiered that September, the world instantly fell in love. Audiences saw themselves in Rachel Green, funny, flawed, insecure, and searching for love. Week after week, Jennifer's performance turned Rachel into not just a character, but a cultural icon. Suddenly, Jennifer Aniston was everywhere. Her face was on magazine covers, her haircut, the famous Rachel, became one of the most copied hairstyles of the decade. Young women lined up at salons asking to look just like her. But with fame came a new kind of pressure. Overnight, Jennifer went from struggling actress to one of the most recognized women in the world. She could no longer walk down the street without being stopped, photographed, or analyzed. Every detail of her life, from what she wore to who she dated, became public property. And as the spotlight grew brighter, Jennifer's identity began to blur. People no longer saw Jennifer Aniston, the woman. They saw Rachel Green, the character. It was a blessing and a curse. On one hand, Jennifer was living her dream. She was making millions of people laugh every week and finally proving to herself and to those who doubted her that she had what it took. On the other hand, she felt trapped inside an image the world refused to let go of. She once admitted that people would approach her on the street and actually call her Rachel, as if the character was real. It made her wonder, did anyone truly see Jennifer anymore? Or had she become lost behind her own creation? The success of Friends was beyond anything she or the cast had imagined. The show ran for 10 seasons, becoming one of the most popular sitcoms in television history. By the end, Jennifer and her co-stars were earning $1 million per episode, an unheard-of salary at the time. But while the money and fame were staggering, they came with a hidden cost. The constant scrutiny left Jennifer exposed. Every move, every smile, every stumble was captured and dissected by tabloids hungry for drama. And as Friends became a cultural phenomenon, Jennifer's personal life became front-page news. Reporters didn't just want Rachel's story, they wanted Jennifer's. Who she loved, who she lost, and whether her happily ever after would look like the fairy tales she played on screen. What the world didn't know was that behind the laughter and applause, Jennifer was already facing heartbreaks that fame could never shield her from. Because just as Friends was turning her into America's sweetheart, her private life was about to become the center of one of Hollywood's most painful scandals. When Friends ended in 2004, Jennifer Aniston faced a new kind of challenge, one most people never expected. She had conquered television. She was adored worldwide, but now she stood at a crossroads. Hollywood is often cruel to women after a defining role. Too many actors had been typecast, forever trapped inside the shadow of a single character. And for Jennifer, that shadow was Rachel Green. Casting directors worried she couldn't play anyone else. The public wasn't sure they wanted to see her outside of Central Perk. But Jennifer was determined. She refused to let her career be reduced to just one chapter. Instead, she took risks that many didn't see coming. In 2002, even before Friends ended, she starred in The Good Girl, an indie drama where she played a depressed retail worker stuck in a dead-end life. It was the complete opposite of Rachel. Critics praised her performance, calling it raw, vulnerable, and proof that Jennifer was far more than a sitcom star. For Jennifer, it was validation, confirmation that she could step outside the comfort zone that had made her famous. Then came Marley and Me in 2008, a heartfelt drama comedy about love, marriage, and loss. The film was a box office hit, touching audiences with its honesty about the bittersweetness of family life. In it, Jennifer showed a softer, more mature side of herself, one that resonated deeply with viewers who had grown up with her. But perhaps her boldest move came in 2019 when she returned to television in The Morning Show. This time, she wasn't playing the quirky, lovable girl next door. She was Alex Levy, a complex, flawed, powerful news anchor battling ageism, sexism, and betrayal in the cutthroat world of broadcast journalism. The performance was electrifying. Jennifer won a Screen Actors Guild Award and earned critical acclaim that silenced anyone who had ever doubted her depth as an actress. For Jennifer, this wasn't just about proving herself to Hollywood. It was about rewriting the narrative of her life. She had fought to break free from the box the world tried to put her in, and she had succeeded. No longer just Rachel Green, she was Jennifer Aniston, a respected actress, producer, and voice for women in the industry. But while her career reinvention was soaring, her personal life told a different story. The headlines weren't about her awards or performances. They were about her relationships. Because behind the powerful image of reinvention, Jennifer was privately facing heartbreaks that the cameras never stopped chasing. And it was one love story in particular that would define how the world saw her, for better and for worse. By the late 1990s, Jennifer Aniston was already a household name. But when she fell in love with Brad Pitt, the golden boy of Hollywood, the world believed it had found its ultimate fairy tale. He was the movie star heartthrob. She was America's sweetheart. Together, they seemed untouchable. The two first met in 1998, introduced by their agents, and from the very beginning, sparks flew. Their chemistry was undeniable, their smiles effortless, and to the public, they looked like perfection personified. Paparazzi captured their every move, holding hands on red carpets, whispering to each other at award shows, laughing like no one else existed. In an industry notorious for fleeting romances, Brad and Jennifer seemed different. On July 29, 2000, they married in a lavish ceremony in Malibu. It was the wedding of the decade, a sunset overlooking the Pacific, a glass tent glowing with thousands of candles, fireworks bursting over the ocean as they said their vows. For fans, it wasn't just a wedding. It was a promise that maybe, just maybe, true love really could exist in Hollywood. For the next few years, Jennifer and Brad were the golden couple. And then came 2005. While filming Mr. and Mrs. Smith, Brad met Angelina Jolie. What began as professional collaboration quickly fueled rumors of something more. Suddenly, whispers of an affair began flooding the tabloids. Photographs of Brad and Angelina on set only deepened the speculation. Jennifer found herself at the center of a storm she never asked for. In January 2005, Jennifer and Brad announced their separation, and by October, their divorce was finalized. The world was stunned. Overnight, America's golden couple had shattered. Jennifer, the woman who had once symbolized happiness and stability, was painted by the press as the wronged wife, heartbroken, betrayed, and abandoned for another woman. The tabloids ran wild, creating a narrative that pitted Jennifer and Angelina against each other. Headlines screamed of a love triangle, fueling years of relentless coverage. No matter what Jennifer did, she couldn't escape the questions. Did Brad cheat? Did Angelina steal him away? Was Jennifer not enough? For Jennifer, it was an excruciatingly public unraveling of her most private heartbreak. She admitted in interviews that she had wanted children, that she had imagined building a family with Brad. But those dreams slipped away the moment their marriage ended. And while Brad and Angelina went on to start a family of their own, Jennifer was left to rebuild her life under the glare of a media circus. But here's the truth that few acknowledged at the time. Jennifer refused to let heartbreak define her. Yes, the divorce was painful. Yes, it was humiliating to live through it in front of millions. But instead of retreating, she chose resilience. She leaned on her friends, focused on her work, and began carving out a new chapter for herself. Still, the scars of that breakup never fully faded. For years, no interview, no public appearance, no achievement could escape the shadow of Brad Pitt. Jennifer became a symbol of strength, yes, but also of loss. The world wanted her to be either the victim or the survivor, rarely allowing her to simply be Jennifer. And as if that wasn't enough, the relentless spotlight would soon turn to another painful subject, her longing for motherhood. And the cruel rumors that questioned whether she was complete without children. After Jennifer Aniston split from Brad Pitt, you might think the world would give her the space to heal, to move forward, to simply live her life. But instead, the opposite happened. The tabloids didn't let her breathe. If anything, the attention only grew sharper, harsher, more personal. Suddenly, Jennifer's worth in the public eye seemed to be measured by one question. Would she ever have children? Week after week, grocery store shelves were lined with glossy magazines plastered with her face. Headlines screamed, "Pregnant at last," 1 month, followed by "Heartbroken Jen, still childless" the next. It didn't matter whether she was working on a film, receiving an award, or simply walking her dog. Paparazzi cameras zoomed in on her body, dissecting every curve, every outfit, every angle. A slightly loose dress? She must be hiding a baby bump. A flat stomach in a bikini? She must have chosen career over family. It became a cruel cycle, an endless narrative that reduced her entire identity to one thing: motherhood, or rather, the absence of it. But what the tabloids never considered was the toll it took on her privately. Jennifer wasn't just a celebrity. They were talking about her body, her choices, her grief, as if she were nothing more than a headline to sell copies. Behind the smiles she carried at premieres, behind the polished interviews, she admitted later that it hurt deeply. She once described the constant speculation as sport-like, as though the media turned her life into a game for the world to place bets on. And for Jennifer, it wasn't simply about having or not having children. It was about something much bigger. It was about autonomy, about dignity, about refusing to let a patriarchal narrative decide her worth. Society has long pressured women to define themselves by motherhood, and for Jennifer, that pressure played out under the brightest, harshest spotlight imaginable. In 2016, after nearly 2 decades of relentless headlines, Jennifer finally snapped back in a way no one saw coming. She penned a blistering essay in the Huffington Post, and in it, she tore down the myths once and for all. Her words were clear, unapologetic, and powerful. For the record, I am not pregnant. What I am is fed up. Fed up with the sport-like scrutiny and body shaming that happens daily under the guise of journalism, she went even further, declaring a truth that resonated with millions of women around the world. We are complete, with or without a mate, with or without a child. We get to decide for ourselves what is beautiful when it comes to our bodies. It was a moment of empowerment, Jennifer taking control of her own story after decades of being silenced by rumor and speculation. Fans applauded her bravery. Women around the world thanked her for saying what they had always felt, that their worth wasn't tied to their ability to bear children. And yet, even after that essay, the tabloids didn't stop. They never do. The whispers of baby bump stories still surface from time to time. But the difference is this: Jennifer no longer let those stories define her. Instead, she chose to live authentically, surrounding herself with friends who became her chosen family, investing in her craft, and creating a life built on joy, not on outdated expectations. Because while the media reduced her to the childless star, Jennifer was quietly proving that a woman's life can be full, rich, and meaningful in countless ways. She didn't need to check society's boxes to be whole. She was whole already. Still, the scars of that scrutiny left their mark. To this day, Jennifer's journey is a reminder of how unfairly women in the spotlight and women everywhere are judged, measured, and diminished by the most personal of choices. But if there is one thing Jennifer Aniston has always shown us, it is this: resilience. She took the pain, the gossip, the endless pressure, and transformed it into power. And in doing so, she redefined not just her own life, but the way the world sees women who choose to live life on their own terms. And as Jennifer found strength in rejecting those pressures, she entered a new chapter of her life, one defined not by loss, but by growth, healing, and an unshakable determination to create happiness on her own terms. After the very public collapse of her marriage to Brad Pitt, Jennifer Aniston still believed in love. She wasn't ready to give up on the idea of finding a true partner, someone who could see beyond the fame, beyond the headlines, and simply love her for who she was. But as the years unfolded, her search for lasting love would prove to be just as complicated and heartbreaking as the scrutiny she faced in the media. In the late 2000s, Jennifer's name became linked with musician John Mayer. Their relationship was passionate, high-profile, and, in the eyes of the public, almost too good to be true. Fans hoped this could be the fresh start she deserved. But behind closed doors, the reality was far messier. John himself would later admit that his immaturity and obsession with fame at the time made him a difficult partner. Their romance flickered on and off, rekindling only to burn out again, leaving Jennifer once more in the painful position of trying to move forward from another public breakup. Then, in 2011, she met actor and screenwriter Justin Theroux while filming Wanderlust. This time, it felt different. Their chemistry was undeniable. And for the first time in years, Jennifer seemed truly happy. Friends said she glowed when she was with him. And in 2015, the couple tied the knot in an intimate ceremony at their Bel Air home. For many fans, this was the moment they had been waiting for, the happy ending Jennifer had always deserved. But as we know, love stories in Hollywood don't always last. By 2018, Jennifer and Justin announced their separation. And just like with Brad Pitt, the headlines exploded. Rumors swirled, speculation grew, and once again, Jennifer's heartbreak was treated like entertainment for the world to consume. This time, however, Jennifer handled things differently. She refused to let the tabloids write her story. In interviews, she was honest about the pain of divorce, but also clear. She did not see herself as a victim. She made it clear that being single did not mean being incomplete, and that choosing to walk away from relationships that weren't working was, in fact, a sign of strength. Still, the constant cycle of love, hope, and heartbreak took its toll. Every time Jennifer opened her heart, the world seemed to watch, analyze, and judge. For anyone, love can be complicated. But for her, it was magnified under the harsh glare of fame. Every relationship became a spectacle, every breakup a public autopsy. And yet, through all of it, Jennifer never stopped believing in love. She never allowed bitterness to take over. She remained open, vulnerable, and real, qualities that made fans love her even more. She once said in an interview, "When it comes to relationships, I still have faith. I still believe." That resilience, that ability to keep her heart open despite the pain, is part of what makes her story so moving. Jennifer's romances with John Mayer and Justin Theroux may not have given her the happily ever after the public demanded, but they taught her something more important: that love doesn't have to look perfect to be real, and that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away. And as she moved forward, she began to focus less on the idea of finding someone else to complete her, and more on the idea of completing herself. For decades, Jennifer Aniston's personal life was picked apart under the harshest spotlight imaginable. Tabloids speculated endlessly about when she would finally have children. But what the world never knew, what Jennifer kept hidden even from her closest circle for years, was that she was trying. Quietly, painfully, desperately. In one of the most vulnerable revelations of her life, Jennifer later admitted that throughout her late 30s and 40s, she underwent rounds of IVF, grueling, expensive, emotionally draining treatments that offered hope one moment and heartbreak the next. She endured the doctor visits, the injections, the endless waiting, all while plastering on a smile for red carpets and interviews. And all the while, the magazines continued to mock her, running headlines about her being selfish or choosing career over family. They didn't know that behind closed doors, she was fighting one of the most difficult battles a woman can face. They didn't know that she cried quietly after failed attempts, or that each passing year made the dream of motherhood slip further out of reach. Later, Jennifer confessed that she wished she had frozen her eggs earlier. She admitted there was a window when science might have given her a different chance, but at the time, she didn't know. Nobody had told her what she might lose by waiting. By the time she fully committed to IVF, it was too late. And so, she carried that grief in silence. Imagine the weight. Trying to build a career, maintain relationships, keep smiling for fans, while silently mourning the family she longed for but could never have. For Jennifer, the silence wasn't just about privacy. It was about survival. She once said that if she had shared the truth earlier, the media would have turned it into a circus. And she was right. They would have sold her pain in glossy headlines, feeding on her most intimate heartbreak. But years later, when she finally spoke about it openly in an interview, the world responded with compassion. ... Fans who had judged her unfairly for so long suddenly saw the truth. She wasn't selfish. She wasn't childless by choice. She was a woman who had fought a battle that countless others fight every day, and who had done it while the whole world was watching. And most importantly, Jennifer didn't let this battle define her. After making peace with the fact that motherhood wasn't in her path, she chose not to see it as a failure, but as a redirection. She poured her love into friendships, into her work, into philanthropy, and into herself. She showed that even without children, her life could be rich, full, and deeply meaningful. Her story resonates because it's real, it's raw. It reminds us that we never truly know what someone is going through behind the scenes. For Jennifer, those years of IVF and heartbreak taught her resilience, but they also gave her wisdom. She emerged not broken, but whole, not bitter, but stronger. And with that strength, she began to rebuild her narrative, not as the woman who lost everything, but as the woman who reclaimed her life on her own terms. Jennifer Aniston's life has never been simple. From a fractured childhood to the pressures of fame, to very public heartbreaks and private battles with infertility, her story has been anything but the Hollywood fairy tale so many assumed it was. And yet, what makes her journey extraordinary isn't just the pain she endured, but the way she rose from it. At one point, the media defined Jennifer as the eternal victim, the woman who lost Brad, the woman who never had children, the woman who couldn't keep love. For years, her name was synonymous with pity. But Jennifer reached a breaking point. She decided that she would no longer let the tabloids or anyone else control her narrative. In a groundbreaking essay and interviews that followed, Jennifer declared something that resonated with women around the world. We are complete with or without a mate, with or without a child. It was a bold statement, but more than that, it was liberating. For decades, women, especially in Hollywood, had been measured by their relationships or their ability to have children. Jennifer shattered that mold. She redefined what fulfillment, beauty, and success could look like. This redefinition wasn't just words, it was how she chose to live. Instead of hiding from her past, she embraced it. Instead of dwelling on what she didn't have, she celebrated what she did. She threw herself into projects that inspired her, friendships that grounded her, and causes that mattered deeply, from supporting cancer research to advocating for women's rights. And in doing so, Jennifer Aniston became more than just a star. She became a symbol of resilience, of perseverance, of choosing self-worth over public opinion. She showed the world that happiness doesn't come from fitting into society's expectations. It comes from rewriting your own story, no matter how many times life tries to tear the pages away. Today, Jennifer is celebrated not only for her career, but for her strength. She continues to shine on screen. But perhaps her greatest role has been showing millions of women that it's okay to stand alone. It's okay to live differently, and it's okay to define yourself on your own terms. Her journey reminds us that beauty fades, fame changes, and relationships come and go. But resilience, self-respect, and courage, those endure. Jennifer Aniston has become proof that even when life doesn't turn out the way you planned, it can still be beautiful, powerful, and worth celebrating. And so, When we look back at her life, not as the tabloids wrote it, but as she lived it, we don't see tragedy. We see triumph. We see a woman who turned heartbreak into wisdom, pain into power, and loss into liberation. Jennifer Aniston is no longer just Rachel Green. She is no longer just the woman defined by her marriage, or her struggles, or her scars. She is something far greater. She is Jennifer Aniston, a voice of resilience, a beacon of empowerment, and a living reminder that no matter what the world says, you are enough. Jennifer Aniston's story is one of resilience, of heartbreak, and ultimately of triumph. She reminds us that no matter what the world says, no matter how many times life tries to break you, you can rise and you can define your own worth. If her journey moved you, if it made you see her in a new light, take a moment to reflect. How many of us carry silent battles that no one else can see? And if you'd like to hear more untold stories of Hollywood's brightest stars, their struggles, their secrets, and their strength, make sure you subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a story that could inspire you too. Because behind every glamorous image, there's a human story waiting to be told. And Jennifer's, it's one we'll never forget.